Life in the new office has been fantastic. I've been going through not just projects that have been dogging me for years, but also a class of projects that, looking at the last couple of years, I thought I'd never get to. These are the projects stuck into what I call the Chowder Boxes, boxes of collections of other collections of pieces of things that I put together myself and then plainly forgot about. As time wore on in the little office, and every time I switched gears and it was a lost day, I figured I'd never get to this other class. But a few short months of being in the new office, I am, in fact, pursuing these nightmare chowder boxes, and it's forcing me to confront something that I didn't think I would have to, my own personal historical archive. This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It, a podcast about technology, history, and getting myself out of debt. Thanks to Jeff Atwood and the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. Now, when I'm talking about personal historical archives, I'm not talking about the collections that people have sent me that I am technically the caretaker of. I don't mean videotapes sent to me from individuals or boxes of discs from families whose members are gone. I'm not talking about papers and tapes coming to me in the mail. I'm talking about a class of material that I myself gathered like static onto a piece of clothing over the course of my own personal decades. Put together not always sensibly, and certainly nothing like findable, but merely traveling through time, bunching up like a snowball, until finally, this year has become the year that I confront them. There's a certain feeling when you're throwing hands with your own archiving practices. I've always believed that at least putting everything into a box and putting it away made it pretty easy to ensure that potentially precious parts of yourself would continue on, either towards much later in your life or even beyond your life. But while you might be known for doing something, some creative work or personal writing or even photographs and recordings that you made during your teenage years or beyond, there's a whole other set of materials that may only have meaning to you. A button, a Post-it note with a name on it, a collection of twist ties, a collection, as I found, of napkins, pieces of different plastic toys, now long split apart, but with one piece carefully wrapped and at the bottom of a cardboard or plastic box. In other words, the after effects of a tornado, the tornado of time, where only you possess the key as to why some of these items persist on. It's another thing entirely to look at your own work and realize how close you came to doing the same to others. It would be annoying to go through what I have, to figure out which of it was things I was holding in trust, which of it was my own material, which of it was, as I've been discovering, a box that I threw a few things into, intending to throw it out, and somehow it ended up inside of another collection. All these little pointers and shortcuts and notes to myself, mental notes, that would be lost without me. The situation I'm currently in, where every day that I am in this office, I am pulling apart these complicated, multidisciplinary, self-created archives, I'm reducing the amount of time that somebody after me would have to understand what's going on. Obviously, there are piles of CD-ROMs and tapes and commercial items that speak for themselves, items that I have. And we have tools now where you can aim a phone camera at a lot of commercial items and it will tell you a bunch of things about it and allow you to make a decision. Then there's a collection of books that I have, which are books that mention me or were written by my friends, or maybe I just liked reading the book and want it near me. The same thing goes for little pieces of vintage computer equipment, joysticks and monitors and keyboards that just having them nearby takes me mentally to a place decades ago. But then it gets a little stranger when I start opening the Chowder Boxes. Bank statements for banks I have no recollection of ever being a member of. Maps and brochures for locations I know I never visited. Pieces of scrap paper with numbers scrawled sideways. Maybe it's a bulletin board system, maybe a fax number, maybe it's just the number of a person who bought something from me in 1992. Who knows? I know that I can find things of value in there. Drawings that I did in my teenage years and 20s, postcards sent from family members, even a note sent to me by a government honeypot when she was trying to track me down and figure out if I was a dangerous hacker. You know, the kind of mementos that make you laugh out loud, alone, graying in your room, from something that happened 30 or 40 years ago. Honestly, I do love the surprises. I do love stumbling onto something I was sure that I had thrown out or that I lost. When I see something from my teenage years, I realize, fundamentally, that I've been dragging this weight, this souvenir of my teenage years, for over 40 years. That's a very long time, by any measure, for what these items were. My solution now is that I've been trying to find both things that can be thrown away because they either don't fulfill their function or they ended up in there unexpectedly, or can I make them into a sort of museum piece, put them on shelves in my office to represent something I owned or something I admired or a cute little shiny thing I got at a flea market? Can I separate things that would inform people about me along with items that I personally just want to have around while I'm alive? In the case of the drawings, I have been digitizing them, scanning them in. Little weird drawings that I made years and years ago will probably end up on cow.net, in my art section, or maybe a Flickr gallery. They'll be stored aside, evidence of what I was, not clearly having a future life as an active part of myself, but just me moving through them. Isn't that everyone's dream for their previous work? To know that it won't get in your way, to know that you can move on to new projects, to move on with more correspondence or creative works, and have, for mementos, for jokes, for references, what's come before. Confronting these has caused me to look really strongly at why I do what I do. Why do I preserve these pieces of other people's lives and preserve pieces of my own? Do I have a story here? Is there a goal at the end, some sort of retrospective, a professionally bound book of mine or other people's accomplishments? Or is it going to be a stack of paper that represents about 10 seconds of heated fire in a fireplace before the box is used to store somebody else's precious work? I don't know. I have no idea. And as I have a single room where I am facing down all of what I was that I have kept, it's the next step, the perhaps final step, to realize it's not up to me. It's not my decision. It's not where I will have a say. Confronting all of these chowder boxes will still take a large amount of time, and the amount of material being digitized and leaving this office is, frankly, unlike anything I've had previous in my life. Where I am barreling towards is that goal that I've talked about before, to not be actively archiving when I'm 60, to have a pile of material and be a consultant to other archiving projects. What a dream. What a plan. It would be a lovely capstone to a life spent looking hopefully towards the future and looking inquiringly towards the past. Sandwiched in between those is the modern present era, where I, at least, feel that I'm at a peak, a true stopping point, a rest area on the journey of my life. But the journey goes on, and I can't wait to travel it. This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It, thanks to James Bekoyanu, Ernie Hershey, Michael Rubin, Dilip Reddy, Sean Kelly, David Fisher, Trixie the Cat, Joey Mink, Martin, Symbionts, Benjamin Guts, and Anonymous, along with the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere, who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. My scanners are fired up, my digitizers are working, and these finite boxes, now weakened with decades of stasis while computers and ingestion techniques have become more and more industrialized, shall be a digital memory, living on a machine, a set of spinning hard drives, a set of USB sticks, and solid-state memory. And maybe, who knows, what life they'll live beyond my own.